take a quick sip of my tea. That's good. All right, so hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about a highly requested video, which is my printing workflow. When I did my last video on printing, a lot of you reached out and said you'd like to know a bit about my workflow. I just want to mention, I think everyone's workflow's quite different in a sense where we all do things differently, little intricacies that we all do differently. But yeah, this is the one that seems to work for me and is the one that I'm happy with the results I've been getting from it. It's probably going to change over time. I've only been printing my work for about 3-4 months now, so bear that in mind. But yeah, this has been working for me and I think it can help you out if you're just starting out and wanting to get into printing. So first of all, I jump into Lightroom. This is where I do my color corrections, any cropping and things like that. So yeah, just jump in here. We can see the image size in the corner. So we've got 2908 pixels wide, and that's how many pixels high we have. So this is based on my negative scan that I got back from the lab. That was probably like a medium sized scan, but normally moving forward I've been getting larger negative scans because yeah, I'm thinking ahead. If I want to print anything, I want to have the biggest image to work with. So yeah, that's basically the image size there. And yeah, if you're working in digital, I guess that would depend on the megapixel of your camera. Yeah, so the image we're working with today, I thought it might work quite well because there's a lot of detail, some nice colors. What I want to talk about as well, when it comes to cropping the image, I generally like to leave it how I shot it and how I want it to be seen by other people. I generally don't like cropping an image if I want it to fit a certain paper. Normally the other way around, where it's like I want to pick the paper that's going to suit the image. But yeah, this one happens to fit really nicely with the A3 plus size with a 1-inch border. So yeah, I've picked the aspect ratio to fit the A3 plus size, which is, you can see in the cropping detail here, which is the 2:3, because I want the full image in the photo. I don't really want to go any wider. I nearly forgot about talking about calibrating your screen. So I don't actually have a calibrator at this point in time. They are quite expensive and I just don't really have the funds for one right now. So basically what I've read from other YouTubers and other people who have done some printing is that, especially when you're using a MacBook Pro, if you dim your brightness to about halfway, that will give you the correct kind of brightness when you're dealing with your print, and it will be more cohesive in terms of how bright your print is going to be. So yeah, I dim mine to about halfway and that's really worked well. And I've been very happy with the brightness of my print so far using that technique. But yeah, obviously in the future, once I get a calibrator, I'll be doing that as well to make sure the colors are correct. But yeah, until then, I've been using this technique, which has been working. I know it's not probably the most professional, but it's doing the job so far. So yeah, let's jump into the next part. So the first thing that I jump into once I'm in Photoshop is the image size. So you go into image and then image size, and then here you get the dimensions of your image in inches. This is 8 inches wide, 12 inches high, with a resolution of 360 pixels per inch. So when I change the image dimensions, so basically I want to create a 13:19 image. Well, basically I'm going to be printing a 13:19 image, which is an A3 plus size, like I said, but I want a 1-inch border. So I'm going to go into 12 inches by 18, and that's going to give me 242 pixels per inch. Okay, so that's probably about as low as I want to go, really. I think you could probably possibly go lower to 220, but I'd probably suggest keeping it around that area. But yeah, and then up here we have the image size, which is 72.6 megabytes. But yeah, like I said, there was probably like a medium-sized scan from the lab. Yeah, normally nowadays I'm getting a larger scan, so it'd be larger than that, so I'd have a bit more room to play with. But yeah, so this is good. Go over to here and then press OK. So the first thing I want to do here is duplicate my layer. Press OK. You can call it a different name if you want to. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to keep it background copy. And then I'm going to convert this layer for smart filters. Press OK. Okay, so what that essentially means when you're converting a layer for smart filters, it means that once you've applied that filter with whatever settings that you choose at the time, you can go back into that filter at a later stage and kind of set what settings you want. Say you've applied something a bit too much or a bit too little, you can go back in and change the amount that you've put in there. Okay, so now we're going to go back to filter, go into other, and then go into high pass. All right, so we can see now it's kind of giving you a grayscale look to the image. And basically what it's doing, you can see here, it's giving the high contrast edges a radius glow. So if I kind of add more, you can kind of see, I'll probably zoom out so you can see a bit more clear. Yeah. And basically, yeah, adds sharpness to the high contrast edges. So basically I don't like to go any higher than 3. I think for this image is already quite sharp. I shot this actually with the Mamiya RC67 using some Portra 400. So yeah, it's got a nice kind of very sharp. I think I was using the diffusion filter, so there is a bit of a glow to the highlight, so it's not super sharp, but it's already got that nice sharpness anyway. So yeah, I don't want to necessarily add too much. So I'm going to go with 2.5. Press OK, go over here and go into overlay. All right, so once I zoom in, this car is going to be a good kind of subject to see the difference in sharpness, I think. But yeah, so if I go into here and I click off, you can kind of see the difference there. There it is on again, and off, on again. So yeah, it's adding a nice bit of sharpness to the high contrast edges, like I said. And the good thing about that as well, I guess the difference if you were to put like a sharpening mask on it, a sharpening mask would add sharpening to the whole image. If we were to zoom into the sky, if you were to add a sharpening mask, it would add kind of like noise essentially to the sky, which is not what you want in areas where you don't really need to add any sharpness. So here you can tell if I click it off and on, there's no real difference there, so it's kept that sky with that nice grain that's already come from the film. I can go back in, double click high pass, then I can, add up to 3, or I can go back down to 2.5. I'll zoom in again, go into 3. I guess if you can see, it's adding way too much there, so just find a nice point. I think 2.5 is probably where you want it to sit at for this particular image anyway. With sharpening your image for print, you want to over sharpen it kind of aggressively to a sense, so yeah, it kind of seems over sharpened to the eye, because yeah, you're using it for print. If you were sharpening for screen, I'd definitely not suggest doing so much. So yeah, just think of it as two very different things for screen and for printing. Okay, so back into Photoshop. So the next thing I'd probably do is jump into image and go into canvas size, change that to inches, and then this gives me a kind of idea of what my image is going to look like when it's printed and what the border sizes are going to look like, especially if I'm printing it to be printed in a frame and I want to see what the composition looks like. This gives me a good idea of what it's going to look like when it's printed with the edges. And also if you're sending it off to a lab and you want to make sure it's sitting nicely and there's no room for error, if you're sending it off to them and you want it printed on a certain type of paper, then this is probably the best way to do it. Like I said, it doesn't leave any room for error. They know, you've created that border, you've given them the exact dimensions, and yeah, you can't really go wrong with a proof setup like that. Talking about proof setup, the next thing we're going to go into is proof setup. So we're going to go into here and go into custom. All right. Okay, so I've already got it in Photoshop right now. So basically this is the ICC profile, and if you've researched into printing, you've probably heard a bit about ICC profiles. So you want to have the correct ICC profile for the paper that you're using and also for the printer that you're using. So you can see here, I've got the Pixma Pro 100. and then the Barter 2. I'm printing on Canon's Barter Photographic 2. So here we've got, you know, Barter 2 on the Pixma Pro 100. You want to have this ticked off, the simulate paper color, so you can, yeah, see the simulation of the paper color. You press OK, and if you press Command Y, you can turn it off and you can turn it back on. But yeah, you can see here it's kind of taken a little bit of the contrast out of it, but yeah, it hasn't really done too much. But yeah, I quite like the way that it's edited, and I don't really want to make any changes. But yeah, say it kind of shifts some colors, or, you know, does anything too drastic, you might want to think about editing your photo to make sure you correct it for the printer and for the paper that you're using. I definitely recommend doing maybe some test prints on smaller paper, maybe some 8x10s or something like that, just so you don't waste any ink or any of your bigger paper supplies before printing anything too big. So the ICC profile as well is a great way to kind of, yeah, give you an idea of what the paper and what the look is going to be like, and it allows Photoshop to take control basically of the image with that profile. So yeah, after that we jump into File and then press Print. So another reason why I use the proof setup is because it provides you a gamut warning, and basically what that does, so if I go over here and click the gamut warning here, it's showing me any colors here that are falling out of the gamut range based on the ICC profile. And yeah, so what then will happen is Photoshop will step in here and add some information depending on what rendering kind of intent that you tell it to work on. So here you can see it's got relative colorimetric, and this is what I've been using for my past prints, and I've been really happy the way it's handled any information or, you know, reproduced any colors that have fallen out of the gamut range so far. So yeah, I definitely recommend using that choice. But yeah, you can see here it's got a description of what it does. So basically, out of gamut colors are shifted to the closest reproducible color in the destination color space. So the relative colorimetric preserves more of the original colors in an image than perceptual. I haven't actually used any of the other ones, perceptual, saturation, or absolute. So yeah, I've been pretty happy with relative colorimetric so far. But yeah, as you can see here, it's showing me these bits in gray that are falling out of the gamut warning. I have actually printed this print before and been very happy with the results. So yeah, I think relative colorimetric has worked its magic here. But yeah, so once we go past that, we go into print settings here, and then we've got our size selected here, which is A3+, and then we'll go across into quality and media, and then you'll pick your photo paper. So here I've got photo paper plus semi-gloss. So when you actually receive your download of your ICC profile, you should actually receive a document that tells you which quality and media, which media type you should pick. So yeah, obviously I've picked this one. Say you've got maybe a luster paper like the Canon Pro luster, you pick this one here. Or yeah, you know, you've got matte papers and so on and so on. And then you want it, yeah, manual feed. So manual feed, basically, if a paper weighs a certain amount, I think it's over 260 GSM, you have to use the manual feeder at the back. If it's, you know, a lighter than 260, I'll put a correction if I've got that wrong, but yeah, I think it's 260. But yeah, if it's under that, you can use the rear tray. And then yeah, I keep this at standard and then press save. But yeah, so you just want to make sure Photoshop is managing the colors, that your ICC profile is selected here. Everything looks correct. You can see the border, you can see everything, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I don't think it's too intricate and it's not too confusing, well, hopefully anyway. But yeah, this is my process. This is what I've been using so far. Like I said, I've only been printing for maybe 3 or 4 months. So yeah, it's very premature and very kind of early days for me in that kind of space. So I'm probably gonna maybe change things in the future. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some insight into the way that I print and my workflow. And yeah, I hope it gave you some valuable information that you can use moving forward. But yeah, I guess, you know, try things out, see what works for you. I definitely recommend getting maybe sample packs if you're new to printing, and seeing what paper that you enjoy using, and experimenting with that, because it's really fun. Every different paper gives you a slightly different look, especially when you're moving from maybe matte paper to glossy and things like that. But yeah, it's really enjoyable. To print your work is such a great experience, and I definitely recommend it to anyone. And the Canon Pixma Pro 100S has been a dream. It's really been great to work with. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a good printer. But other than that, yeah, I think I've touched on everything that I wanted to talk about. And yeah, I hope, I'm just rambling now anyway. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've really been enjoying printing, and I hope you will too. But yeah, I'll see you next time. Peace.